Hey everybody, the reason we're driving down this country road past all these ordinary family farms that look like they could be anywhere in middle America is because here, kind of hidden away behind some trees off this country road, is a really extraordinary archaeological site. We're about half an hour outside of Nashville, and here is a place where a Mississippian era Native American village was positioned for at least 300 years, which you have to think is longer than the United States has been a country even. So there's a beautiful mound out here. There's a creek bed that we're going to explore. We're going to see what we can find to take pictures of today. This is where we are. Like I said, about half an hour from Nashville, Sellars Farm State Archaeological Area. Seen here from Google Earth. We scroll in, you can see there's a creek running on the right. We're going to walk in on that little tire tread there that you can see running along the farm fence. Through those trees, we're going to come into the site, heading to the right on a footpath that takes us along the riverbed. And that will eventually bring us around to where the mound site is. We're now coming over to an area where you can see where the village actually was positioned. When we scroll back out a little bit, you can see top left there, that's the actual mound. Bottom left below that, there are two tree areas that one of those, I believe, is a burial mound. So that's our location. That's where we'll be coming in. Through the trees, you can see there's how close the farmhouse is on the other side. It's quite near. And again, there's the farmhouse on the other side. It must be quite amazing for these farmers who live out here to think about the fact that 1,000 years ago, there was a thriving Native American village just right there, right on their property, just next to their property. This guy right here is an interesting character. His name is Sandy. His nickname is Sandy. He's an 18-inch high siltstone carving that was actually found on this property. So that's pretty significant. And this is actually the state artifact of Tennessee now. So this is the level of culture that lived here. In case you don't know, the Mississippian culture lasted up to about 1,300 years ago, or about 700 years ago, I'm sorry. And they were really the last Native American culture before European visitors came. Here we can see some diagrams of, there's a cross-section of the mound. Of course, the mound was built by Native American people carrying dirt in one basket at a time. And this is a diagram of a wall that was built around. All these Mississippian sites seem to have what they call palisades or wooden walls, and also dirt walls as well, and a ditch. So apparently, even though life was pretty good on a site like this, they had plenty of food and life was not bad, there was a threat from outside apparently. Warfare must have been common. But imagine how much work it must have been for these people to fell these trees, strip the trees, process them into timbers, and to erect a wall around a site like this, because the palisade went all the way around. It's amazing to think about. This is just diagrams and illustrations on a kiosk at the entrance to the site next to the parking lot. That's what we're looking at now. And I wish the light was a little better on this, but this is a chart of the Native American periods. There's an artist rendering of the entire site as it might have looked when the homesteads were inside the palisade and the temple. And here's an interesting one of an artist rendering on top of an actual aerial photo. You can see the mound here is shown kind of to the left. It'll be straight ahead when we walk in. Again, one more look at the dew-covered ground just outside the area here. I love those beautiful trees. And again, we're here to explore, but also take landscape photography, so I'm scoping out possible subjects. And I am actually going to get a shot of these trees that I'll show you later towards the end of the video. I'm also interested in the sounds. The insects, frogs, birds. Even though we're only just down the road from the Nashville International Airport, and there are quite a few flyovers here. I think I'll edit those out, but and the road is a country road, but there's a fair amount of traffic on it. But in between those things, it's very quiet out here, and it's quite possible to imagine that you're here in the same time as the Native Americans and what it must have been like for them. Imagine waking up on a morning like this 1,000 years ago and being surrounded by this nature. We'll be walking on a mowed path, but most of the site is left wild. So there are a lot of wildflowers, a lot of weeds. And I imagine when they were here, the plaza was kept tamped down. It might have been hard dirt. And I wonder how they cleared the site off, and I'm sure they probably used fire, although I don't have any. I'm not a historian or an archaeologist, but I'm guessing they would have burned it maybe to clear it. Just looking at some of the local vegetation and wildflowers. And this is the path we saw overhead, the 2-track gravel path. They don't want you climbing on the mounds, obviously. So now we're going to head through the woods and onto the actual site of the village itself. And you can see here the woods are, and the undergrowth are fairly dense. Must have been something back in the day. I guess they followed animal paths, buffalo trails. There's the facilities. Be sure you use the restroom before you visit. There on the other side of the forest, you can see the great plaza. This is something I encountered quite a bit out here. A surprising number of big spiders, the biggest spiders I've ever seen, building webs across the path. After walking through 4 or 5 of these and getting them across my face, I learned to keep an eye out for them. These are some of the biggest spiders I've ever seen. And giant, giant webs. Here's a look at the Grand Plaza. Somewhere on the other side of all that tall grass and wildflowers is the mound we're going to visit. Oh, and there's another big guy. Look at the size of him. You can see he's caught a leaf in his web too, so it's very sticky and very strong. It's a pretty good sized leaf. And there's a little bit, you can see this is lower down by your face on the trail. This is the kind of thing I was walking through. Eventually I learned to watch for them and to use my tripod to break it before I walk through it. And again, there's Spring Creek down along the side. We're walking along there on this wooded path. That's obviously one of the main features that made this site attractive to the Native Americans, I'm sure. Fresh water. Fresh water and fertile farmland. Recent rains have made it quite muddy. I'm not sure if it's always this muddy, but there it is, very placid. Very glassy. Yes, some jackass actually left his trash out here. If you can believe that. There's a beer bottle over there. Not cool. For landscape photography, I got pretty lucky on the light. You can see it sort of went between soft morning light and sort of really filtered light with the high clouds. I was there early, but it doesn't take long in Tennessee for the light to get harsh. Wasn't sure what that is. Is that a tomato? Does anybody know? couple more spider webs. These are not built across the path, but next to the path. Look at that beauty. Dewdrops on it in the morning, catching the sunlight. You can't really see it on the camera, but there's one I'm breaking with my tripod. And here's one, if you can see it, it's very faint right there. Built kind of low. Not sure what kind of spiders these are. Clearly no one had been on this path for a while. Interesting, I found this old stone wall here. I'm not sure what the origin of this would have been, if it was maybe an original settler or if it was something that was done by the state of Tennessee at some point. Why it's there, I'm not sure. Not sure the age of it, but it's a beauty. And there are some very old stone walls in this part of the world. Just not sure. Another look at Spring Creek. And look at this giant tree. Just amazing. And as old as it is, it wouldn't have been here when the Native Americans were here. Scarring from a fence wire at some point in its life. Here's another beauty down on the creek side. Of course, fresh water would have given them a little bit of a natural defense on this side. Fish, mussels. But also you can see these little tiny freshwater shells. They actually use those to grind up and add some extra tempering to their pottery. That's one of the features of this particular culture here in Tennessee, that they did that. I guess it added extra hardness. They used those shells ground up into grains, and they also used some kinds of maybe quartz or stones. Now, at this point, I'm going to interject and say that, like a dummy, I didn't tighten my camera down well and let it drop off about a good 3.5 foot drop onto the rocks and into the water. And it survived to tell the tale. Now, I've been thinking about changing camera systems recently, and let me just say that after it survived that fall, I'm not sure that the system I was considering would actually survive a fall like that. It's making me reconsider the move. We're a little further down on Spring Creek now. Working our way slowly around to the mound. Looking for photographic subjects along the way, of course. Look at the size of that fallen tree. And I think I see some photographic subject here. Nice. This may be my money shot for the day. When you're out here, you get a real sense of the nature. And of course, these people were intimately aware of everything about their environment. They were immersed in it daily. They knew what they could eat, what they couldn't eat. They knew where to find food. But can you imagine, being here, it's a very sensory experience. You know, the sounds of the bugs, the sounds of the birds, the wildflowers, the breeze in the trees, the smells of the wildflowers. It's just really amazing. And there's the reason for our visit, the main mound. For some reason in Tennessee, they don't keep the mounds cleared off. And a lot of mound sites you go and it looks like a tall, grassy mound. But here they let the trees grow on. They let the vegetation grow on. And I understand they don't want to go on and mow it because they don't want to degrade the mound itself, but it's a unique thing to Tennessee as far as I know. Most places, they do keep them sort of cleared off, but here they let trees grow through and let them go more or less wild. You can see the burial mound on the left. That's the main mound seen from across the plaza. Of course, at some point in time, these would have been other buildings and homesteads all around here, as we saw in those diagrams at the beginning. Thanks for watching, everybody. Here are a few of my shots from the day. I hope you enjoy them. Be sure to visit my website at keithdotson.com.